Welcome to the SaaStock How-To series, in which we aim to answer questions posed by our community and give you 3 actionable takeaways. I'm Alex Thuma, CEO of SaaStock, which helps SaaS companies get traction, grow, and scale through our community, conferences, and content. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Patrick Campbell, CEO at Profitwell. Welcome, Patrick.
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. It's been a while. It's just, I have this piece of glass. Normally I could reach out and give you a hug here, so we'll have to wait a year for that, it sounds like.
It's been a year, I think, since I've had a Patrick Campbell hug.
I know. And you're probably missing it. Let's just be honest. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm missing close contact with my customers, but it's really good to see you. You're in Salt Lake City, is that right, or Utah?
Yeah. I moved to about a year ago. We opened up our West Coast in quotes office. Thankfully, we didn't go right to San Francisco. We didn't go there for a couple of reasons, but because I can't imagine having the rent there and everything like that through COVID here. So yeah, Salt Lake's great. I love it. But I'm still going back and forth to Boston a little bit, a lot less than obviously before, but still hanging out in the headquarters there.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Well, look, I mean, you know, a challenging year, but we've been getting a lot of questions from our community, and we're answering them on this How-To series with the expert help of folks like yourself. So today's question is how to implement freemium pricing, and clearly you're the guy for the job to answer this question. So how do we implement freemium pricing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me think through this a little bit, because I think the first piece of advice is don't. That's the biggest thing. And I'm not saying I'm against freemium or you shouldn't use freemium, but I think that the biggest thing you have to think about with freemium is that it's an acquisition model. It is not a revenue model. A lot of people, they add it into their pricing, or they think just like, hey, we're going to put a free plan and that's going to solve all of our growth. This just couldn't be the case. The best companies in the world with freemium tend to be those that are either, have a top 20, growth person in the world. And if you don't know your top 20, you probably aren't. That sounds a little aggressive, but it just truly is. Like, you have to have someone who's that good. Or they've implemented freemium probably 3-4 years into the business after they have realized how to convert someone from being a prospect to paid. Because with freemium, what you're doing, and this is a little bit of an oversimplification, you're essentially expanding that funnel. So you're opening up the top of the funnel, much similar to an ebook, and that's why you want to think about it as that premium ebook. Now, assuming you're at the right time, and I would say the right time is you understand who your customer segments, your profiles are, and in addition to that, you know how to convert someone to free to pay, or from a prospect to being paid. That's the time that you want to kind of open that funnel. And after you've kind of exhausted a number of different things and you're ready to commit to freemium, that's the right time to do it. Again, there are some exceptions here, especially if you need a network effect or you're a marketplace and you have to have freemium, but most of us are SaaS here, so we're probably not in that bucket. Now, when you're thinking of actually implementing freemium, you have 2 main types of freemium. You have what's called a faux free trial, and then you have forever free. So a faux free trial is essentially like a sales enablement tool, like the Yeswares or the HubSpots of the world, where basically you have 100 opens per month or 100 emails tracked per month, where essentially what happens is your target customer, the one you care about, they will go through all 100 of those opens within 14 to 21 days. So it's kind of like a faux free trial. And what's beautiful about this is that if they are a target customer, they'll be prompted to convert because they want more of those opens or more of those emails tracked. And if they're not, or they're not ready to be that target customer, they'll essentially reset their total number of, widgets or what's it to the 100 opens given that next month. Now, a faux free trial, what's really, really great about it is it works well when you have a little bit more of a transactional or a heavy workflow type product. There are other products that don't really fit that world, but it's one of those things where you essentially can make sure that customer is converting on their own terms. Now, the other type of free, which is forever free, this is something like Profitwell, right? Where Profitwell metrics product, you can use it forever. It doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are. It's free forever, and then we're going to sell you tangential products. Now, this is best for those types of companies that basically are in a low TAM market from a logo perspective. So there's only, depending on who you ask, about 150,000 subscription companies in the world. SaaS is a much smaller subset of that. And when you're looking at that kind of TAM problem, having some sort of freemium product helps you basically attract those logos, helps you nurture those logos, so on and so forth. Now, the important thing about both of these freemium type paths is that you're putting the onus of conversion on the customer rather than on some artificial sales process. And the reason that's important is that if you think about what's happened in the past 10 to 20 years in the world of SaaS, is that we have a lot more density. There's just a lot more products out there. And also there's a lot of density within the markets that we're in or we're trying to acquire customers through. So inevitably what ends up happening with freemium is you're basically lowering that activation energy and you're also nurturing that lead into the long term. So we see fairly consistently, and I'm more than happy to share this data for the transcription notes here, where retention for those customers who convert from free is typically much better than those who convert from free trial, which both are much better than those who convert from a sales process. CAC, customer acquisition cost, is much, much better for those folks, and NPS is also much better for those folks as well. And this is basically because you're using the best content you have, your actual product, to essentially convert those folks or nurture those folks into the long term. Now, getting a little bit into the nitty gritty, I know we want to keep this to a shorter time span, and I don't want to give a 45-minute talk on implementing freemium, especially without slides. The nitty gritty here is what I would do is if I'm doing faux free trial, I would probably make sure that I basically give away, essentially the same value metric I'm charging on. So whether it's, the number of opens or the number of contacts or the number of users, I then would limit that to essentially what my target customer would use within those 14 to 21 days. And the best way to do that is to use what's called a histogram analysis. You learned it in 5th grade. You probably forgot it. There's plenty of YouTube videos. But basically look at the usage and the frequency of usage and then pare it down to what that looks like in the first 30 days. For Forever Free, it's more of a vision and mission choice. And so for us at Profitwell, we had to kind of decide like this was the right move. And the way that we decided is you want to give something away that's valuable to that lead that you're trying to attract, but not something necessarily that is, in a market where someone can be 10x better than you. In the analytics space, it's really hard to build a 10x product. You can build like a 3x product. You're probably not going to build a 10x product. But the important thing is that ultimately you're going after that lead or that type of persona that you're going after. And then the last thing I'll say, it's kind of the boring thing, but for most folks, the boring thing is typically the most important. You have to make sure you dedicate yourself to freemium. Too many people, they throw on a freemium tier and then they don't do any optimization between that precipice between free to paid. You should not be implementing freemium until you have someone who is basically just 100% of their job or close to it, or more people dedicated to that precipice between free and paid, because there's so many optimizations, because it's not only a marketing problem, but it's also a product problem that needs to be solved. So with that, I'll recap, nice little bow. One, don't implement freemium until you're ready. You really want to make sure that you're implementing freemium when you understand how to convert someone from a prospect to being a paid customer. Two, there are 2 types of freemium, faux free trial and forever free. You want to decide based on kind of the velocity of your pricing already or how you're going to attract those leads, what things look like. And then 3, as kind of mentioned, you want to make sure that you're not doing freemium unless you're going to actually dedicate someone to the strategy, because it is something that can get really complicated and has a lot of moving parts. So you need someone who's optimizing to make it worth it, because after all, you are supporting something that's going to cost you money. Whether it's cheap or not, you're going to have engineering resources, time, materials, etc. on that freemium plan. So you want to make sure it optimizes itself properly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for wrapping that up nicely, Patrick. If people want to reach out to you and ask you who's on that top 20 list of where can they find you and contact you?
Yeah. I'm just Patrick at Profitwell.com. Feel free to hit me up. We also wrote a book on freemium. So I believe it's at Profitwell.com/freemium. You can go check it out. It's called the Freemium Manifesto, because the idea is you're controlling the means of distribution. Nice little Trotsky joke there. But anyway, so it's one of those things where, feel free to reach out. We've written a ton on this, and, happy to always chat freemium.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Patrick Campbell, CEO at Profitwell, for answering the community's question on how to implement freemium pricing.